reached out and asked if you had read the indictment. You said you read it word for word, page for page, right?
I did. I keep up. I love Jackson.
Even though they've not been in court and they've not been found guilty, it's just an indictment at this point.
They don't see it. My first statement was, think about your family. Think about your family. Put your family first.
I never thought in a million years we would have been put in the situation that we were in. Never. Because we went through our whole career doing the right thing.
It's utterly ridiculous to me. Utterly ridiculous. Utterly ridiculous.
And good evening, everybody. Welcome to a special edition of the Othor Cain Show. Glad to have you here on a Wednesday. Boy, I was rushed to get here so that we can get on for 8:30. But I'm glad to be here. Glad to have you here. We'll give people a few more minutes to get in so that we can have a conversation. Lots of developments today. I want to spend some time talking about what happened today over at IHL. I did have an opportunity to get over there today. So we'll talk and go through the series of events. But tonight, I also want to spend a little time talking about what's going on in Canton, Mississippi, and how I think Cantonians could really get involved and really help bring some resolution to what's happening. When things hit close to home and things become personal, right? I think we react from a personal perspective, and so what's happening in Canton, I would hate to see it go down a personal line or move into a personal space. I'm reminded of what my preacher says, and we'll get back to this, but I am reminded of what my preacher says, and that is we should keep the main thing, right? We should keep the main thing, and that's what I kind of want to stress when we start talking about Canton, keeping the main thing, because sometimes it's easy to get caught up, right? Sometimes it's easy to get caught up. But I want to begin tonight with news out of Jackson State University, and so I appreciate you guys being here. So I want to start tonight with news out of Jackson State University. And so we have yet another president at Jackson State. And I want that. I want you to sit with that for a minute, right? I want you to sit with that for a minute, right? I want you to sit with that for a minute. We have yet another president at Jackson State University. So an interim president was named today. And when I tell you this is sad on so many levels, it really is. It's sad on so many levels. It's sad on so many levels. You look at your screen, our last three presidents, Black men. Our last three presidents, Black men. Bynum 2017 until 2020. Hudson 2020 until 2023. And Thompson 23 until 25. Our last three presidents at Jackson State University. And I just want you to sit and leave the graphic up for me, Dr. J. I want you to just sit with that for a minute, because this graphic in and of itself speaks volumes. So just sit with that for a minute. Sit with that. Because this graphic, it speaks volumes, man. It speaks volumes. It speaks volumes. And so here's what I would tell you, that this blood solely rests on the shoulders of IHL. The blood is on their hands, man. And let me put a paper clip right there. Right? Let me just say this here. Let me put a paper clip there. Please don't start singing nothing about Dr. Lackey. Please don't start singing nothing about Dr. Elaine Hayes Anthony. Don't even do it. Don't do it. And I love Dr. Lackey. All right? Love Dr. Lackey. But don't start singing Dr. Lackey. Don't start singing Dr. Elaine Hayes Anthony. I would hope Dr. Anthony would even allow them to use her anymore, in addition to not being the one to lead the university. But I would hope she would tell IHL, don't let them. And apparently they have, they're not, because they already got an interim, right? And certainly, and hopefully she's not named permanent. But don't start singing that. Don't start singing Give Me Dr. Lackey. Don't start singing Give Me Dr. Anthony, because here's what I would tell you. There is a difference, a clear and decided difference between loyalty and skill set. There's a decided difference between loyalty and skill set. So don't start singing no Dr. Anthony, and don't start singing no Dr. Lackey. Love Dr. Lackey dearly, but don't start singing that. There is a decided difference between skill set and loyalty. And far too often, we get in trouble because we pick loyalty and not skill set. And I will tell you this, and I learned this from a preacher. I will tell you this. You can teach loyalty to skill sets, but you can't teach skill sets to loyalty. Right? And so these hires, our hires, rest on the shoulders of IHL. And in that spirit, it's where we'll begin tonight. And that's why I believe things unfolded the way they unfolded. And so I want to take you back. I was in Sandestin, Florida at a wine festival when I first got news. We could take that graphic down. When I first got the news that there were rumblings and something happening at Jackson State, I was at a wine pairing, a dinner, and I was engaged in a conversation, and they thought that I already knew. I didn't know on that Thursday. I had not heard. That was the first time that I had heard about it. Was on that Thursday, right? That was the first time, that particular Thursday. I think that was April the 9th or the 10th, whichever that Thursday was. I think that Thursday was the 10th. So that Thursday is when I first got rumblings that something was going on. And the person that shared it with me that Thursday thought that I already knew. But at that point, I had not heard anything. So I went back, after we finished dinner, I went back to the condo that we were staying in. I went back to the condo, and by the time I got back, so we did dinner and went out for drinks and did some other things. So the time I got back to the condo, I probably had about 10, 15 text messages. And by the Friday, I probably had about 30 text messages and responded to about 10 calls. And I'm going to tell you something. Of the 10 calls that I responded to, one of those calls laid it out just as it happened today, right? So Thursday was April the 10th. So on the 11th, I missed going to the beach that morning because of all of the calls and text messages. On that Friday, the 11th, one call that I entertained laid it out exactly as it happened today. But I never said a word. I couldn't say it because I couldn't prove it, right? I couldn't prove it. And those of you that know me, you know, I don't care how close you are to me, I am fact checking everything. I am fact checking everything. But I kid you not, on Friday the 11th, when I was in Florida, one of the 10 calls that I entertained laid it out verbatim as it happened today. That we would get through graduation, right? That we would get through graduation, that IHL wanted to minimize the hits to that organization, right? That IHL wanted to minimize the hits to IHL for getting it wrong again, right? That they wanted this to go away as quietly, as seamlessly as possible. And guess what? I understood it then. I understood it, and I understand it now. Does not necessarily mean that I agree with it, but I understand it, right? Because the last three presidents have left under a cloud, and almost a singular cloud, right? And IHL didn't want to take, any more hits, right? And I would tell you, IHL did its level best to keep things as quiet as possible, right? To keep things as quiet as possible. This is on IHL. Because let's be honest, in this most recent search, right? In this most recent search, prior to them naming Marcus Thompson, in the most recent search, right? That was a search. But in the most recent search, they abandoned the process. They abandoned the process, right? They abandoned the process. So this is on them. I can even tell you about the number of lawsuits over the last few weeks that I've been made aware of. Yeah, Bishop, I know Myers, but she didn't leave under these circumstances. So Myers does not have in common what Thompson, Hudson, and Biden have in common, right? So, this is solely on IHL. And so where I was going was IHL abandoned the process and named Thompson. He was not a part of the search, right? He was not a part of the search, not vetted, none of that. IHL abandoned the process. And I'm going to tell you something. The situation that I was placed in, here's what's really interesting. One day, during all of the hiring and Thomas leaving, one day, and I can't remember what day it was, it's been a long ago, but one day, it was like Char was my office because I met with Thomas Hudson this day. I left Thomas, went to something that I had, came back to Char, and I met Marcus all in one day. Thomas and I was talking about him leaving and things brewing and all of that. Hudson and I, rather, was talking about him leaving and things brewing. And then when I came back to Char a little later that evening, I met with Marcus, and Marcus shared that he was getting the job. He shared that he told me that he was getting the job. I was blown away. He told me that he was getting the job. I was like, man, you weren't even a part of the search process. And let me tell you something, and don't get it twisted. Marcus is not the first person that IHL has decided to go to a university without having gone through the search process. That happened at Ole Miss. So Marcus is not the first one. So that is not out of the ordinary. I know people were making a big deal of that, but that is not out of the ordinary. But back to the timeline that I wanted to share with you. Back to the timeline that I wanted to share with you. So that Friday, literally, one of the calls that I entertained, they laid out today verbatim that Marcus would resign. Perhaps he would declare medical reasons for his resignation. They would get through the graduation. IHL would not make a big fuss about it as to not bring scrutiny to them. Just a lot. Let me put a paper clip there. I want to address Frida's comment because Dr. Anthony is not the answer. She's antiquated. She's out of touch. She's in bed with the Republicans of the state. So she means no black students any good. Frida says Hayes Anthony was doing a good job, and they started making sure she was seen with the Republican Party to sway people's thoughts about her ethics in her role. I don't think they started making her visible with the Republicans. That's who she is. She showed up at Tate Reeves' victory party. Tate Reeves appointed her to several boards. So it's not they. They know they. She did that. She's not qualified to be president of Jackson State University. I mean, look at how she is running the mass comm. Just out of touch, outdated, right? You need more people with real life experiences, with practical experiences, leading that. She needs to go home, if truth be told. She's not fit to be president. She's out of touch. She's she's outdated. I do think getting a woman though, it's good. It's good, and would be great for the university. But yeah, so no Dr. Anthony, no Dr. Lackey. Their ships have sailed, as far as I'm concerned. But back to the timeline. So this person laid it out verbatim that this is the way it was gonna go down, and it did. But I couldn't say anything, right? I couldn't post because I couldn't prove it. They said it to me, in confidentiality. But I had no documents. I had nothing to trace, nothing to follow. And when I tell you, I followed every single rumor. But let's get to the Jackson State University National Alumni Association President, Patrice Edwards, or whatever her name is. And I didn't say it like that to be funny. I just couldn't think. Patrice, I know. I think that her last name is Edwards. But let's get to that. She made a post and tried to come at me because I think that my post was that we are hearing things are happening at Jackson State. I never said what was happening. I never said who it was happening with, right? I made a post about hearing that things are happening. He jumps out of the box with me, right? She jumped out of the box with me and said, y'all could take a page from the white folk, and be more loyal and not post rumors. I didn't say who. I didn't say what. I said we are hearing rumblings or something like that on the campus of Jackson State. When I get details, we will share them with you, or something to that magnitude. I wanted to share with her all of the text messages and all of the things that I had to say, you really don't know what you're talking about. And again, to me, that's the difference between loyalty and skill sets, right? Right there. That's an example. The difference between loyalty and skill sets. It's one thing to be loyal to a person. It's one thing to be loyal to an organization, to a school, but it's another thing to be blinded by ignorance and to be blinded by that loyalty. Blind loyalty is something, right? Blind loyalty is something. I asked her to see about getting, the alumni, Jackson State, and Forest Hill over to my church doing Black History program. She never followed up on that, but she jumped out of the box. She jumped out of the box defending. Y'all should be like the white folk and not run with you. What are you talking about, ma'am? What are you talking about? Because clearly you really don't know what you're talking about. But I understand blind loyalty, and I understand being the president of the National Alumni Association. I get it, but you were wrong, right? You were wrong. But riddle me this. Riddle me this, and I need your help with this, and then we're gonna move, right? And talk about the order of today, what happened at the thing. But riddle me this. What is with that seat as president at Jackson State? What is with a seat of power? Right? What's with it? What's with it? What's with that seat that causes folk to seemingly lose their minds? What's with that seat, man? What's with that seat? Three. With that three. The last three. What's with that, man? This is embarrassing. This is embarrassing. And I am telling you, I have liked all three of them. Bynum, Hudson, and Thompson. And still do. And wanted all three of them to succeed. Like, I really honestly thought Thomas Hudson was going to have the tenure similar to Dr. Peoples. Right? I really did. I really did. I really did. I really thought Thomas was going to have a tenure similar to Dr. Peoples. I really did. I really, and I was hopeful, and I was prayerful of that. And I also thought Thompson and Hudson were friends, and the way all of that unfolded just kind of blew my mind. But what is it about that seat and about this perceived power? Right? Tiffany, I think I missed your question. What's your question? Tiffany, I think I missed that. But what is it about this perceived power, man? What is it? What is it? Yeah, Pat says it's not just JSU, it's city government too. I get it. I missed Tiffany's question. I'm sorry. But anyway, so we get there today. Let me backtrack. So though I couldn't post anything official, I stayed engaged and I followed the story, and I would check in with my contacts. Like I remember saying once to my contact, "Oh, things have died. Are you sure this is gonna unfold like this?" And they responded, "Just because it's quiet does not mean it has gone away." I said, "Okay, touche." I left it. I left it alone, right? But I would follow. I would check every time I would hear something. I would follow. 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 And then that contact said to me today is the day. And they told me to refer to my conversation and my text from April the 11th. And I did. And good people, it went down exactly the way my source laid it out. Now, the only thing is the note from IHL today did not necessarily say why Marcus resigned, right? It did not necessarily say why Marcus resigned. It said that they accepted his resignation. Marcus Wallace says, excuse the expression, but it's called leading with the wrong head. And it seems to be a problem that's plaguing a lot of leadership positions in this state. Yeah, agree. And Rob says, when you're not used to power or artificial light, they get off on it. All this power and light is temporary ego stimulation. That's really good. You're absolutely right. It's a perceived power, and it's fake power. It's false power, right? You know, I was telling somebody just this morning, honestly, even before I got the text to say it was going to happen today, I was telling somebody just this morning, it is easy to get caught up in the moment. So don't believe your own PR, right? Don't believe your own PR. So don't get caught up in self. Stay focused. Keep the main thing the main thing. You know. So you know I'm not going to even read that. I don't deal with rumors publicly. Let me say that. You know, because who doesn't like a good piece of gossip, right? Who doesn't like a good piece of gossip? But I don't deal with rumors in this space, right? I will never allow myself to get caught up with rumors in this space. So we don't know. You know, I don't know. I don't know what actually went down. I know all the things that I've heard. I know all the things that were shared to me, which is why I said in my live earlier today, I am hearing the same things that you are hearing, but I have no proof. You know, somebody said there are videos going around. Nobody ever sent me the video, so I never saw it, right? So I can't talk about any of that. I can't talk about any of that. Yeah, because you need to trademark. You need to trademark that one. Temporary ego stimulation. Dr. Rusty says, powerless power describes individuals who appear to hold influence, authority, or status, but lack the inner foundation to wield them with integrity or purpose. The power is performative, not principled, loud, but hollow. They have no true character, no divine connection, and no moral compass to guide them. Easily swayed by ego, trends, and temptation, they stand for nothing and fall for everything. Woo, that's a whole sermon right there, right? That's a whole sermon. And that is absolutely true. That is absolutely true. But anyway, so I've heard all the rumors, all of the things, and just as late as today, um, someone talked about the gender and said, no, it was a woman, right? I don't get caught up in any of that, wouldn't share any of that here because I have no proof of that. We know that he resigned. My source, April the 11th, said he was going to resign right after graduation. He was going to perhaps take a medical leave, right? The resignation would be centered around medical. I would tell you that IHL can't, and of course they couldn't because of HIPAA laws, right? That it had anything to do with medical. But he's out. He's out. But to Ms. Elwood, back to you. Be careful attempting to defend something that you know nothing about. Blind loyalty is just like being drunk on wine. Blind loyalty is like taking an overdose of that nose powder. Be careful attempting to defend something that you don't know what you're talking about. Especially when I didn't say anything, right? So be careful. Blind loyalty is a drug. So do I, Tiffany. But just be careful. Just be careful. Blind loyalty is a drug, especially when you don't know what you're talking about. It's like being drunk on that nose substance, being drunk on wine. Blind loyalty is not good. And I tell people this all the time, and it's fitting to say it now. We should position ourselves to listen, to comprehend, and not listen to defend. We're just ready to defend, right? We're just ready to defend. We just jump on the defense. We're just set and we're ready, right? Right? Listen to comprehend, and don't listen to defend all the time. But blind loyalty will get you in trouble. It will absolutely get you in trouble. It will get you in trouble, especially when you're defending something that you don't know what you're talking about, and you're defending something and no one said anything. To me, let me say this. To me, when she jumped into my comments to me, that made me dig deeper, right? That made me absolutely dig deeper. It made me dig deeper, man. It did. Say Chappelle, not why. It made me dig deeper because you became so defensive. Anyway, back to today. We got to move to what's happening in Canton next. But so we show up today. No board members were in the room. The record. This is probably the wrong term. I was going to say recording secretary. I'm so churchy. You know, the recording secretary, whatever her title is, you know, took the role and all of that. But all board members they attended the meeting via Zoom. So we get in, started at 12, right? They immediately went into executive session, and they stayed in executive session almost 2 hours. And for me, as young folks said, they were just capping. They have known this. They've known about this for longer than I have, and I've known it for a month. They've known far longer than I have, right? And so that was a wasted 2 hours, right? Because you know, because here's what I know about public bodies: your opinion does not matter. Public bodies should, they don't always, but they should be following the voice of their attorney. The only opinion that matters in that space is the opinion of the attorney, right? The only opinion that matters in that space is the opinion of the attorney. And as board members, your opinion really doesn't matter. And so it really didn't take them 2 hours to decide. It did not. It really did not. So that was a complete and utter waste of time. Only for them to return after 2 hours, or right at 2 hours, to return back into session to ask for a motion to adjourn. They never even said whether action was taken or anything, right? They didn't have to say, but well, they should have said no action was taken in executive session if they didn't take any action, or if they did take some action, they were supposed to report it. So I kind of see some violation there, and I think that I am going to file, you know, an ethics inquiry about that piece, because they should have returned out of executive session. The attorney should have said, in executive session, we talked about personnel matters, no action was taken. Can we get a motion to adjourn? Instead, though, they came back in, we're back from executive session. Can I get a motion to defend? I think I need to do an ethics thing on that. Anyway, so they did that. A wasted 2 hours. We sat there and we waited. And then a little bit before 5, true to his word, John Sewell, who I think is great, doing a great job as communications director at IHL, true to his word, a little bit before 5, issued a press release that Thompson had resigned. But I'm telling you, I have some of the best sources out there, because my source told me exactly how it was going to go down. And it went down exactly like that. All right. And so I don't know the young lady that has been named interim. I know her sister well, and her sister is an assistant superintendent for elementary schools at JPS. And I think she's a triplet, right? But I don't know her. I know her sister, and I know her sister is an amazing person, an amazing individual, and doing awesome work within the Jackson Public Schools district. That's the extent of my knowledge of her. I don't know her, but if she's anything like her sister is absolutely amazing. But now that I have your attention, though, we have something that we need to do. We need to reach out to IHL, and we need to talk about the process of hiring a president, because they've not gotten it right. Right? We need to reach out to IHL, and we've got to say, JSU alums and others, from the community, we need more stake in the game, right? More stake in the game. More stake in the game. We do. I absolutely hate this for Marcus Thompson. I absolutely hate this. And I think what I hate the most about this, and again, I'm not going to talk about the rumors. I'm going to talk about me. And they did abandon the process. Derek, you're absolutely right. They did abandon the process. But let me say this. Again, not talking about the rumors, but talking about me and Marcus. Marcus and I were friends. And it for me, just me, because I've not talked to him about it. And I've wanted to, and I've reached out a couple of times. He didn't respond. But when his wife left the county, and I understand, don't get me wrong, I understand pillow talk, and I understand supporting your spouse, but I also understand supporting what's right, no matter where the truth comes from. Right? I understand supporting what's right. But I'm not married, but I do understand spousal support, spousal loyalty, akin to blind loyalty. But when LaToya Thompson was removed from the space at Hinds County because of things that she did, it seems like I was to blame for that somehow. And upon her exit, Marcus and I no longer communicated, which was silly to me. But he and I never talked about it, right? We've seen each other a couple of times, didn't even speak, right? And I'm like, what is this, man? What is this? But at any rate, that's where we are with that. But all of you that are here, and all of you that love JSU, we need a letter writing campaign. We need some showing up on some doorsteps at IHL. And we need to be saying JSU needs to be a part of the hiring situation. And I want to go back to Russ's comment there. I'm over all of it. The IHL, thumbs down. I'm unplugging from JSU and the JSU National Alumni Association until there is clear and stable leadership at both. I get it. I absolutely get it. I absolutely get it. But I would tell you, though, now is not the time. And I get it. I hear you. But now is not the time to abandon Jackson State University. This is just not the time to do it. If anything, now it's the time to stand on your power, flex your muscles. Now is the time to really do that. Now is the time to flex because IHL has gotten it wrong, right? Now is the time to call them on the carpet, a letter writing campaign, showing up at these meetings and showing up, on the doorsteps and knocking on some doors. Now is the time to flex, our real power. Now is the time to flex. Now is just time to say to IHL, you've gotten it wrong the last 3 times. Let us help. Give JSU a larger stake in what happens in the selection process of its next president. Now it's not the time to abandon Jackson State. Now is the time to take the blinders off and really realize what's at stake. Right? Take the blinders off, realize what's at stake, and flex your muscles. And we have muscles right now. I still wanted to keep this quiet, so now's the time to take advantage of it, right? Now is the time to take advantage of it. And say to them, as a constituent of Jackson State University, we need more of a say in the hiring process. Right? So don't leave. Don't abandon the university. Let's take our blinders off and realize what we're dealing with. All right? Realize what we're dealing with. Our university cannot afford another hit. This is a blow. This is a blow. This is a blow. I refuse, listen to me, I refuse to subscribe to the notion that Black men can't lead. I don't buy that. I don't buy that at all. I don't buy that at all. I refuse to subscribe to the notion that Black men can't lead. I do understand that power is a drug. Power is like dope. Power is an alluring drug. Right? It's a drug. Power is a drug. What do you mean, but we need a do-over? A do-over what? Talk to me, brother. I don't understand that one. Power is a drug, though. Power is a drug, man. Come on, man. It's a drug. And we've got to do better. We've absolutely got to do better. But this is on IHL. But now it's not the time. And I'll leave you with this as far as Jackson State is concerned. Absolutely, Freedom. Absolutely, he is. Absolutely. He sets the standard, right? So I refuse to believe that Black men can't lead. I will offer this advice. I promise I'm going to move to my conversation on Canton. I will offer this advice because I think you can never be too old to have a mentor. You can never be too old to insulate yourself with people that are smarter than you. You can never be too high up on the ladder where you can put folk around you that are smarter than you. You need somebody that's going to have your back, that's going to tell you, yeah, no, or even hell no, right? And Dr. Rossi, I get that. But for me, this is not being reactionary. Let's read her post. She says, I agree, however. Why are we always reactionary? We are often reactionary because it's easier to respond to what's happening than to define what should happen with the presidential search. Well, you just answered your question. By not abandoning the situation and flexing your power now, you get to tell IHL this is what we want. If you abandon, you walk away, they can continue doing the same thing, right? Right? You have got to make yourself known in this space. And J-Mar, you're right. Accountability needs to be laid at IHL's doorstep, and the door needs to be set ablaze. I absolutely agree with that. They did this, which is also why we cannot abandon this process. Now is our time to flex with IHL. Don't send us just anybody. Give us more of a say in the process, right? Give us more of a say in the process. Don't just send us anybody. Give us more of a say in this process. Show up and don't stop showing up, because IHL has gotten it wrong again. I feel like a Baptist preacher. This is my last point on JSU. I got to get to our conversation on Canton. This is my last point on JSU. Woo, Nick, that's powerful, my brother. That's powerful. Nick says power only accentuates the leader's true character. Yeah. And Robert, I'll put some addresses and all that stuff up. I'll share that tomorrow during our normal broadcast time. I'll share some addresses tomorrow as well. Nick, though, that was very good. Power is a drug, which also means that we've got to do a better job of vetting these individuals. It also means that we've got to be more involved in the process. Lisa says this is definitely the time to flex muscles with IHL, let them know that they cannot be trusted to a point. They have proven their incompetence, and we need to let them know they need to change how they are even putting in candidates. I agree 100%. Now's the time to flex. I'm telling you, man, now is the time to flex. I'm going to leave on this note with JSU. We've got to realign, refocus, and reset our moral compass. We've got to realign, refocus, and reset our moral compass in that office, in the tower. Got to realign, refocus, and reset our moral compass. I would take all of that furniture out of that office. I would spray that office down. I will anoint that office. Right? Get some oil in there. Anoint that office. We got to reset our moral compass. Right? The 9th floor of the tower. Thank you. We got to reset our moral compass. Power is a drug. And anytime you begin to make it about you, you're going to fail. Ron said disinfected too. Correct. Let's start there. Correct. Right? Anytime, and I'm a victim of that, right? I've fallen from grace several times in several spaces. And I realized why. That's why I can give this advice. Anytime you make it about you. Anytime you make it about you. My preacher says all the time, keep the main thing the main thing. We need some oil. We need some prayer warriors. And we need to anoint that office on the 9th floor. So that when the next president comes in, at least write a different story. I'm tired of this playbook. I'm tired of this playbook. Go anoint that office. So you can write a new story. And so if you fall and something happens, let it be something new. Levine says, I remember back in 2019 when Ole Miss alumni rejected IHL chancellor selection. I need to research that. I don't remember that. I need to research that. But JSU, you have some power, and now is the time to flex it. JSU needs to be more involved in the selection of its next president. I really hate this happen. I'm trying to make light of a very dark, difficult situation. But I absolutely hate that it happened. Again, keep the main thing the main thing. All right. We also have former JSU presidents as absolutely. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. As good leaders, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. We have former presidents as good leaders as examples, and we have them as bad. Got to go forward, Freedom. Got to go forward. Go forward with excellence. Here's your alarm. Show up, show out. I'll post addresses and all of that tomorrow, but we need to start now reaching out to IHL. Don't send us just anybody, right? Don't send us just anybody. Increase our stake in this selection process. Flex your power now. All right. I got to move to our discussion on Canton, Mississippi. But thank you all, you JSU folk that are here tonight. I appreciate it. And Canton folk, I hope you're still with us tonight as we transition to this subject. Spend just a few minutes on this subject. Let me say this. So I am committed to covering. Let me answer this. Who will construct simple letters so that individuals can communicate with a strong message in the same way? That's a great question. I'm happy to help in that process. That's a great question, Dr. Rustin. Great question. Thank you for that. Maybe we'll try to put some samples up tomorrow. Robert, thank you for that information. But we've got to be connected, and we've got to do this work. We've got to do this work. Got to be connected and got to do this work. We've got to do this work. But on to Canton now. On to Canton now. Again, I'm using my preacher's saying, right? Oh, Frida, thank you. You know I love you. I'm using my preacher saying, we've got to keep the main thing the main thing. So Canton is home for me. I am committed to returning to Canton to tell stories about what's happening in Canton. There's a lot happening in Canton and a lot of stories to tell out of Canton, and I'm committed to doing that. And I started the process over the course of the last couple of weeks. We are intentional about creating a presence in Canton. And so I started this process a couple of weeks ago. And so I'm following this story about unsolved murders and the escalating number of homicides that's happening in Canton and the rise in gun violence in small town such as Canton. In Canton, politics can be dark. And politics can be dark anywhere. Let me talk about Canton, small town Canton. Politics can be dark. And you'll be surprised as to the amount of money that flows through these small towns, man. Don't sleep on these small towns, right? And y'all follow the prompts as my producer putting up, because we are looking for interns. And so you will be surprised as to the amount of money that flow through small towns. You know, some people think there's no money in small towns. But some people also know different and know better. And so you begin to have a clash of the titans. And if Tyler Perry never pens another show or movie, he penned this one right. And it fits Canton perfectly. The haves and the have-nots. He penned that show perfectly. And that's a great title for small town Canton, the have and the have-nots. Because oftentimes voices go unrecognized, voices go unnoticed if you have little. And on the contrary, you become loud when you have a lot. You get to flex. You become loud when you have a lot. But let me tell you about what I'm following and how disappointed I was at the way things unfolded last night in Canton. Extremely disappointed. And I appreciate all of you guys for making posts and sharing information that we talked about previously. So thank you. Keep going. Keep doing that. That's the power of this space, right? That's the power of community. That's the power of independent media. That's the power of supporting Black-owned media. And you guys, please, you can support this broadcast tonight. $Othor Cain. Please do that. But this is the power of Black media. This is the power of independent media, because we can tell stories like no other. And we can spend the necessary amount of time, on these stories, and not a 30-second soundbite, 60-second soundbite. So keep posting that. Thank you for that. Levine is my guy. Keep posting. So I was extremely disappointed with the way things unfolded in Canton last night. And again, remember, we have to understand, and I want you to, this is the theme that I'm coming from. Keep the main thing the main thing. So just keep that in your mind as we talk through this tonight. So I was extremely disappointed. So there was a board of aldermen meeting last night, the mayor and the board of aldermen meeting last night. And with any public body, you can't just show up and think that you're going to be on anybody's agenda. You can't do it. You just cannot do it. And so I apologize if there were those who thought that you could just walk into City Hall, you could just show up and be on somebody's agenda. That's not how it works. That's not how it works. And if anybody led you down that road, you were severely misinformed. Severely misinformed. In fact, here's what I would tell you. Representative Lawrence Blackman was on this show, right? Was on the show. He said then, and he knew he was going to the work session on Monday at the Board of Aldermen meeting, and he knew that he was going to go on that Tuesday. But he also knew, and he understands this extremely well, he knew that he had to be on the agenda to speak, right? He knew that. He also knew after Monday that his presentation on Tuesday would be in executive session. So for all you folk in Canton who are fussing and fighting about not being heard, on Tuesday, you were never scheduled to be heard. You weren't on the agenda. Lawrence knew that he would be on the agenda Tuesday, and that maybe one person, I think I read somewhere where one of the aldermen called him an expert witness or something. I can't remember the title. But Lawrence knew he would be on the agenda Tuesday and that this person would be on the agenda Tuesday. He also knew that these family members were not going to be on the agenda. I looked at it this way, and maybe I had blinders on. I looked at all those folks showing up. They were there for support and to put emphasis on the conversation. I've never once thought all those people that showed up were going to be on the agenda to speak. Never once did I think that. And I'm not really certain how everybody else thought that they were supposed to speak. And let me say this. The agenda on Tuesday in Canton at the alderman meeting, it was organized. They followed the agenda. Representative Blackman knew on Monday that on Tuesday he was going to appear in executive session. Now, whether he relayed that to the masses, I have no idea. I have no idea. But I am baffled why so many people thought that the agenda wasn't followed. I'm baffled as to why so many people thought that the Board of Aldermen broke the rules, broke the laws, or did something distasteful. I so wish that I should have, and I didn't even think about this, but I should have used as an example today when I was at IHL, when they went into executive session and put us out of the room, and we sat in the hallway for nearly 2 hours. And I should have gone live to show that tonight, just to use it as an example in this space. Executive sessions are designed to discuss legal issues, litigation, and other sensitive information that, if consumed by the public, will give all kinds of false narratives. Look at what we do with the information that we already think we have. Look at how we abuse that information, misuse that information, regurgitate that information wrongly and oftentimes falsely. Look at what we do with the information that we have access to. So can you imagine having access to sensitive information, to legal information? The guy that read the statement at IHL, if we discuss this stuff in public, it has to harm, to potentially affect IHL's litigation. That's the purpose of an executive session. Because, baby, this locker room gossip with the information that we do have, we would go crazy if we were privileged to sensitive information. And so that's the purpose of an executive session. And to say that the Board of Aldermen in Canton broke the law, right? To say that the Board of Aldermen broke the law, didn't follow their own agenda, is an absolute lie. It's an absolute lie. It is, man. It is. They had an organized agenda. They didn't create chaos by following that, right? So they had an organized agenda and they followed that. What I am most disappointed with is what happened, I am assuming, after they came out of executive session. And Representative Blackman is on the feed tonight, and I am glad he's here because I don't want to say anything. I wouldn't say anything that I can't repeat, right? And I reached out to him, and I used my preacher's line with him. We got to keep the main thing. We cannot get caught up in our own PR. We can't get caught up in our own PR. We can't get caught up when the cameras are on. I think Representative Blackman, and I said this to him, I think he is doing good work. But the display after executive session was sad. It was disheartening for real. It was disheartening. It was disheartening for real. Right? I believe the focus, this is going into covering this story, I have always believed the focus to be on the escalating number of unsolved homicides and murders in Canton. Going into this space, covering this story, I have always believed that the increase in gun violence and the number of unsolved murders was the focus. And Tiffany, I'm gonna lift that because that's a good point. That's gonna be my message to my good brother Lawrence. That's gonna be my message tonight to my good brother Lawrence. But I believe that to have always been the focus of this situation in Canton. Getting some resolution for these families centered around the loved ones that they've lost to gun violence, these unsolved homicides, the escalating rise in murders in Canton over a 5-year span. I've always believed that was the focus. Last night, though, if but for a moment, we lost focus. Last night, if but for a moment, we lost focus, right? We lost focus. And again, I understand getting emotional. I understand when things don't go your way. I understand when you are anticipating, expecting one outcome, yet you get another one. I get it. I understand it. And you're supposed to dig deeper, fight harder. But the main thing has always got to be the main thing. The focus has got to be on the outcome. And a part of Representative Blackman's message last night was extremely disappointing. There is no way on God's green earth that you resort to talking about somebody's disability for no reason. That's unacceptable. That's unacceptable. There's never an opportunity to reference a person's disability, right, in this space. You're fighting for the victims of gun violence. You're fighting because of the escalating rise in unsolved murders, and that's worthy to fight for. Representative Blackman lost his cool last night. And Tiffany's point, you've got to be able to use your emotional intelligence to maintain control of the situation. When you resort to doing that, you lose accountability, you lose respect. And some people back up from taking you serious. I was extremely disappointed in that. Because Tim Taylor's disability has nothing to do with the way he votes or the position that he takes. That had no place in that conversation, right? No place in that conversation. And I also thought that it was extremely highly inappropriate for an elected official to tell somebody else to stay home to sleep in on election day. It's not how that works. That's not how you move the needle. That's not how you get anything done. That's not how you move the needle. You have an election coming up. And so if the narrative is, let's stay home June 3rd, June 2nd, or whenever the general election is, that could be the same narrative that's promoted when you have to run again. I thought that was highly inappropriate. But I do understand getting caught up in feelings and emotions. I get it. I told Representative Blackman earlier today when he articulated his plans and how he was moving and what he was doing. You know what I said to him? I said, I'm here for all of that. I think that you can do all of those things. And I do. Incredibly smart and passionate. Right? But let me tell you something. I think he can do all of those things, and I'm here for it, to help in any kind of way to move the needle. But I will never stand for the actions that he displayed last night. Uncalled for. And then, too, I'm going to say this, too, to promote FIP over Tim, even if you feel that, even if you support that, it's not something that you should have said. It's not something you should have said. Even if that's how you feel, and you have every right to feel that way. But brother, as a public figure, and you are, and a good one, we all slip, we all fall. It's a lesson learned. You're good, and I support you 1,000%. But as a public figure, and you are, you've got to be guarded with your words and your actions every time you're in public. can't get caught up in the emotions. Easy to do. And it's easier to offer advice than it is operating in that moment. I get it. But I just want to say to you, what you did last night was highly inappropriate, and it did nothing to move the needle for your cause. Yeah, Chip knows he can't. Chip knows he can't be elected in Canton. Can't. You know, he can't. And nor should he. And I say that from the perspective of looking out for Canton in its totality. That's the only reason that I say that. Everybody needs to be a part. And Debbie said something really good, either on my feed or on hers or whenever. Now is the time for Canton to unite. And whatever the outcome of any story or anything that we're chasing, let's be on the same page with keeping the main thing, to so that you can reach your desired outcome. So that you can reach your desired outcome. All right? It's easy to get caught up. And I get it. I get it. I call it a moment of temporary insanity when we begin to smell ourselves, right? I get it. But brother, I would admonish you. Step back. And look at this from a high level. Not in the gutter, not in the weeds. Look at it from a high level. Right? Look at it from a high level. Let's move the needle again. And there are a whole lot of stories that I want to. I followed the court case yesterday, and I know of a new filing today. I'm following all of this, and I'm going to tell these stories because I think it's important for Canton at large to hear and to understand all that's going on. Right now, just little small vacuums, or things are just happening in small silos, in little small vacuums. But I think all of Canton should understand what's happening. All right? All of Canton should understand what's happening. All of Canton. And not just in little silos, not just in little vacuums, but all of Canton. And we need a mayor in Canton that can be inclusive of all people. And for me, you won't get that with Chip. And for those that God calls, right? For those that God calls, he places a heavier burden on you, a heavier responsibility. It's a heavy lift. It's an absolute heavy lift. But you can't gamble with that. Can't gamble with it. Can't gamble with it. You can fumble, but you can't gamble. Fumble the ball, but recover. Fumble the ball, but recover. But if you gamble with it, there's no turning back. That's the difference between gamble and fumbling. If you fumble the ball, you can recover. If you're gambling, it's like putting your money in a slot machine. You can't retrieve it. So be guarded, be careful with the level of responsibility that God places on you. All right? Canton can win. Canton will win. But Canton will only win when it's all working together. I've reached out to Tim Taylor. I am hopeful that he will join the broadcast tomorrow. I wanted to use this as a precursor to my conversation with Tim Taylor so we can really focus more. We've got to touch on this a little bit, but I want us to be able to focus more on his quest to become the next mayor of Canton, Mississippi. Thank y'all. Thank you, Cantonians. Right? Listen, got stories you want us to tell, that's what we're here for. Our endeavor is to become statewide, which is also why we're looking for interns. Thank you all for being with us tonight. Thank you for your trust in me. I don't take that lightly. I don't take that for granted. We have many choices of information dissemination, but I'm grateful that you chose to be with us. Thank you for your support. Have a great night, everybody. And so our goal, it's Father's Day weekend. It's that Saturday, right? Our goal is to get in, have some good workshops, get a good lunch and an etiquette session at lunch, right? If we can grab hold of one young man, and if we can partner this young man with an adult male, right? We believe this day will be transformative because we believe this relationship can build and last. All it takes is one. All it takes is one. It takes absolutely just one. And so we need your support. We need your support. We need your support on recommending young men for this.